This is the Planning and Development Committee meeting. If any of you want to speak to us on agenda items, could you come up and sign in? We don't have anyone currently signed in for anything, so. Okay. Then we're going to continue, start our agenda. As I said, this is the Planning and Development Committee meeting. It's Monday, July 23rd, 2018. It is approximately 7:10 p.m. We do have a quorum, and the first item on the agenda is approval of regular meeting minutes of July 9th, 2018. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, are there any corrections, additions, changes? Okay, then all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the first item on the agenda is P1. It's the vacation rental license for 2001 Orrington Avenue. City staff recommends approval of a vacation rental license for the property located at 2001 Orrington. The vacation rental meets all of the standards and procedures for license approval. Following public comment at the Planning and Development Committee and in a neighborhood meeting, a memorandum of understanding has been drafted to address concerns from neighboring property owners. Approval of the vacation rental license can be conditioned on execution of the MOU. That's for action tonight. Is there a motion to approve? Is there a
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? This is in my ward. I would like to thank the Kettersons for their willingness to meet with the neighbors, and I'd like to ask the neighbors for being such a positive group, and we all came away very happy, I think, with the outcome. So we're happy for this to go forward. So all of those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. P2 is a vacation rental license for 615 Central Street. City staff recommends approval of a vacation rental license for the property located at 615 Central Street. The vacation rental meets all of the standards and procedures for license approval, and that is for action. Is there a motion? Is there a second? Okay. Alderman Ravel, did you want to address this?
Are the homeowners here to tell us a little bit about their proposal? I haven't talked to anybody, so I've not been in the country.
Okay. Is this going to be owner occupied? Do we know?
I believe it is owner occupied, but with the ability to rent the entire house.
And will the owners be present when the entire house is rented or not?
I don't think that was clear in their application. And it's not a requirement of our current code.
No, I understand that. Alderman Ravel, do you have a thought on this?
Well, given that we haven't really made a decision among the council members about whether we want to have these kinds of restrictions for owner occupied or something, I'd say we could go ahead and grant this. It's a 1-year license.
Okay.
But then later this evening, we're going to be talking about, making some kinds of additional recommendations.
Okay. Anyone else comment? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All righty. P3 is ordinance 4018, amending subsection 6419B1 of the City Code, permitted obstructions in required side yards, general provisions. The Plan Commission and staff recommend approval of ordinance 4018 to amend the zoning ordinance to reduce the required front yard setback for open porches in order to allow front porches with a usable depth without the need for zoning relief, and that's for introduction. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Oh, okay. All righty. P4 is ordinance 81018, granting major zoning relief to establish a third dwelling unit in an existing two-family residence at 1822 Lyons Street. City staff and the Zoning Board of Appeals recommend adoption of ordinance 81018, granting major zoning relief to establish a third dwelling unit in an existing two-family residence in the R4 General Residential District. The applicant requests relief for lot size, lot width, and to add 0 parking spaces where 2 additional parking spaces are required. The applicant has complied with all zoning requirements and meets all of the standards for a variation for this district. It's for introduction. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Okay, Alderman Bruce Simmons?
Thank you. I'm asking that we support this. The applicant purchased the property, and it was already 3 units. He's gone through the process to legalize the 3rd unit, has been compliant and cooperative, and he is agreeing to keep one of the 3 units as an affordable unit. And we need more affordable units in the community, so I'm asking support for this.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All righty. P5 is ordinance 77018, granting major zoning relief to eliminate parking and add fencing for Firehouse Grill at 750 Chicago Avenue. City staff and the Zoning Board of Appeals recommend adoption of ordinance 77018, granting major zoning relief to eliminate 1 ADA parking stall with 1 remaining and install a 3-foot tall fence, a planter box, fronting Chicago Avenue, and denying major zoning relief to install an 8-foot tall wood fence with a 0-foot street side yard on Madison Street setback in the C1A Commercial Mixed Use District. The applicant has complied with all zoning requirements and meets all of the standards for a variation for parking and the 3-foot fence for this district. It's for introduction. Is there a motion?
I move approval.
Second.
Okay. Alderman Nguyen, did you?
Yes, this Firehouse Grill is a terrific restaurant. It's recently changed ownership. The menu is different, and this has been a neighborhood restaurant for a long time. This is an example of readaptive reuse. This was once a city firehouse, then it was one of the first Subaru dealerships in the United States, and now it's a terrific restaurant. And so I would also request that we suspend the rules tonight, and I would request action on this at the council. No, actually, I apologize. I misread that. So I just urge all my colleagues to support this because I think this has really been an asset to the community there.
Okay, anyone else want to comment? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All righty. P6 is ordinance 76018, granting a special use for a Type 2 restaurant, Reprise Coffee Roasters at 710 Main Street. The Zoning Board of Appeals and city staff recommend adoption of ordinance 76018, granting a special use approval for a Type 2 restaurant, Reprise Coffee Roasters, in the B2 district and ODM Dempster, Maine overlay district. The applicant has complied with all zoning requirements and meets all of the standards of a special use for this district. Alderman Wilson requests suspension of the rules for introduction and action at the July 23, 2018 City Council meeting. It's for introduction and action. Is there a motion?
I move approval.
Okay, any discussion? Is the business owner present? Oh, hi. Did you want to just come up and say hi and tell us a little bit who you are and a little bit about your business?
My name's Adam Peranto. I own Reprise Coffee Roasters, and I would like permission to open a cafe in the beautiful city of Evanston. Mm-hmm. And we're a direct trade coffee roaster based on the North Shore of Chicago, Winnetka specifically, and like to extend our brand to Evanston. We're award-winning as well as sustainably award-winning as well for our coffee agricultural practices and roasting as well from start to finish.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and thank you for coming to Evanston. Anyone else? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Welcome, and thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Okay, we have one item for discussion. It's PD1, vacation license rental. Staff seeks direction on potential revisions to the vacation rental license to address the ongoing interest by property owners to convert units to vacation rentals. It's for discussion. Alderman Rainey.
Madam Chair, I'm talking to the previous issue. Alderman Wilson requested suspension of the rules.
Yes.
I don't know, did you mention that?
I mentioned that we were suspending the rules and introducing. Yeah. Don't you want to speak to this?
No?
Oh, okay. All right. Who would like to speak to this? Alderman Ravel will speak to it.
Sure, I'll get us started. I guess I would like to see us go to requiring owner occupancy for our short-term rentals. In the material in the packet, it was interesting, they talked about hosted sharing, where then the occupants of the residence remain on site when the guests are there, and then unhosted sharing, where the primary occupants of the residence vacate the unit while it's being occupied by its guests, but basically they are permanent residents in the home itself. So I guess I would recommend that we draft some amendments to our short-term rental ordinance to reflect that we require some form of owner occupancy, just for starters.
Okay.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. Alderman Ruth Simmons?
I would like to explore that further, and maybe that we have resident owner and not owner occupant. A Evanston resident can have the license for a property, but not necessarily owner occupy it, so we don't have absentee vacation home owners and operators.
Could you turn your mic on, Alderman Ravel?
So this would be someone who's renting an apartment and would like to share it with a guest. I mean, for
That
short-term
they
rental.
could live in Evanston, but not necessarily be an owner occupant of the vacation property.
Okay, so they could live next door, for example, or down the block. We can talk about that.
Okay.
Alderman Nguyen?
I understand that point. How would, Alderman Ruth Simmons, how would we avoid having someone who actually is an Evanston resident, but meaning they own several properties here in Evanston, and perhaps they reside here for some of the year, but they're gone for a lot of the year? Because I agree, if someone is a resident and they own two properties next door to each other and they want to rent the one next to them, so they're essentially around and on site and available if something happens. But what happens when, for instance, we have someone who spends 6 months of the year in Florida? They're actually an Evanston resident, but they're not around in the sense that I think we're trying to make sure that they are.
Well, that could be the case for an owner occupant of you said that you could be an unhosted vacation rental. That could be the case, that they could be in Florida or Arizona for 6 months while they are renting out their home as a vacation rental. So the feedback that I've heard from the community are actually absentee landlords that are out of state and not managing their property and having poor behaviors from the clients or...
Right, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that if we have them as Evanston residents, then they're more likely to be accountable and committed to our community standards here, and less likely to be negligent property owners.
And simply investors.
And simply investors.
Alderman Rainey? Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
hope so. I would hope so, but I don't know whether that's as much as a guarantee as having the owner nearby. I mean, actually here present in the city.
Well, for the argument of them having like dual residency or part of their time out of state, then that would apply as well to the unhosted vacation rental, where they could
Right.
be having extended time someplace else.
Right, you're right. Okay.
Okay, Alderman Rainey, then Alderman Ravel.
One of the very worst landlords we have in the city of Evanston, who owns probably as many properties as any other person in the city of Evanston, lives in Skokie. So, that somebody's going to be out of town for a few months who normally lives in Evanston, I don't think is a criteria to worry about somebody not taking care of their property, or I don't think it's a valid argument. I think a person who lives away, like an individual we had who came and testified, I live in Reno, Nevada, and I'm not here except maybe a week a year, that's the problem.
Yeah.
But a person who lives here, who's registered to vote here, who has his full-time home here, who vacations a lot, I think is a person we want to be able to be part of the vacation rental community here. I don't have a problem with that.
I think another problem with this is how to discern how many short-term vacation rentals we actually have in Evanston. It's very hard to do. Johanna, has staff done any research on that?
Beyond what we can see on Airbnb and see that there's a property available in mid-October on Noyes or Thielen Court or different parts, and know that we do not have vacation licenses for those locations, no, we don't. We haven't, but we know that there are people that are not getting licenses.
Alderman Ruth Simmons? Then Alderman Ravel?
Does our ordinance allow to Airbnb without this vacation rental?
I'm sorry, does it allow,
To have Airbnb without this license?
I mean, people can use that would be the avenue by which they're advertising. Like, do they want to advertise in the Tribune or the Sun-Times or the Relationship? If you are going to rent your home out when you're not there and it's going to be for a period less than 30 days, you have to get a vacation rental license.
That's what I'm asking. Thank
Yes.
you.
So what are we going to do about those folks that aren't licensed and are running short-term vacation rentals? What does the committee want to do about that? Alderman Ravel.
Well, one reason that we're talking about this, I think, is because we're concerned about too many investors scooping up properties that could be affordable housing for residents in Evanston. And so it's not just having someone who's on site and who does a good job with maintenance or is taking good care, making sure that the guests are behaving themselves. It's also because we're concerned about the availability and affordability of our housing supply. So I really would like us to ask staff to draft some language for us that would allow both hosted sharing and unhosted sharing. And probably we'd have to put in some kind of requirement that where they demonstrate, that they're actually Evanston residents in that property. And we could talk about a cap on the number of nights if we're. I mean, there are a whole host of things we can talk about, but that would be where I'd start.
Okay, anybody else? Johanna, do you
with
have some?
that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I would agree with that.
Okay. Yes, Alderman
I
Rainey.
think the more difficult we make it, the more frequent you'll find people who are not going to register. People will try to fly under the radar if we make it too complicated or just too complicated. I don't think it has anything to do with the fee we charge. It'll be how much we, what we require of them, then they won't register.
Okay, Johanna, do you have enough direction, do you think? What do you want us to do for you?
Well, I would highlight the memo in the. I mean, I think I'm understanding we want make sure that we're preserving a relationship with the owner of the property to Evanston, Illinois, and not just a visit here and there. That there has to be a stronger connection, so that we can work with that. I guess I would look for some additional guidance if you want to do. If you want us to pull together something that's based on the sources I cited, on limits to the number of rental nights for a particular property in a calendar year, or if there's a minimum number of stays for nights, or just start with owner occupancy and go from there.
I would say Evanston resident
Yeah.
instead of owner occupied.
Okay.
Folks? Anybody? Does that sound good? We'll continue the discussion?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So, Johanna, we'll come back with something at the next meeting? Or-
It may have to be in September,
September?
since
Okay.
since that next meeting is just in a couple weeks, and we'd have to work
Okay.
with the law department to revise the ordinance.
Okay. Sound good to everybody?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, all right. Alderman Rainey.
Do we have people on a waiting list waiting to get before the council or the committee? Applicants?
There's about 4 in the queue right now that we're going through the inspections and the zoning review.
So I think another thing that would deter people is if it takes 3-4 months for them to get approved.
I don't think it takes 3 or 4 months. I think we receive the application, we do our follow-up, and we try to get them on the next. I think what we're trying to respond to is they come to council, and the process by which they're being reviewed, they're sending a note to the neighbors. We're trying to notify aldermen before it comes to council, but then the neighbors have some concerns, and then we're responding to those particular concerns on a one-off basis for particular pieces of that property. So
Have we approved any Airbnb that we've then gotten complaints on?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, so that will end our discussion. Joanna, are there any communications? Okay, then is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Yes. City Council will begin at 10 minutes at 20 to 8. I need to remind everybody there's no standing in this room. If you can't find a seat, you need to go out into the anteroom, and we may have television cameras set up in in room 2404, but you can't stand in this room because we'll have the fire marshal in here. Okay. Okay. Okay, folks. So City Council will begin at 20 to 8.